Councilors, we're going to get started in about a minute or so. Thank you. Good evening. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Industrial Community Development Committee. Chairman, myself, Gould, Councilor Daigle, Councilor Manning Martin, Councilor McGinn, and Councilor Rossignol. Also in attendance is Councilor Welton, Councilor Peach, Councilor Melville, Councilor Turco. We will go right at it and have Mr. Bellavance. Would you like to speak on behalf of this, Mr. Bellavance, or are you waiting for some information?
Kurt Bellavance, Community Development Director. No, actually, this is, I believe Jack Kelty was put forward this zoning amendment for a client, but I'd be happy to talk about it. What they're looking to do is allow a bakery retail use as a special permit in the BR1 zone. Currently, it's in the BR zone right now, but what they're looking to do is allow for bakeries to be basically on Route 1, because that's where the BR1 zoning district is. It is allowed on 114. They're looking to do that. I did have a meeting with the building commissioner in regards to the definition, because I had suggested or had asked about places like Honeydew Donuts that, make donuts and then sell those on the premises. He said that that's actually a restaurant because they have seating indoors. So a bakery with retail would not necessarily have seating inside. But it's not a commercial use, it's a retail, so it's typically smaller in nature. And we're supportive of his request for that to allow a retail bakery on Route 1 in the BR1 zone. So happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of the committee? Councilor McGinn, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No questions per se. I just, I looked this over within the context of zoning, and I think the contention of the applicant's attorney was that this was a Scrivener's error in 2013. I don't know whether that's true or not, but it does seem to be consistent with the fact that this use is allowed by special permit in basically every other business district. So it would appear to me that by adding it to the BR1, it's consistent with the balance of zoning. So just an observation, Mr. Chairman. I would personally support this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. I thought the same thing on the Scrivener, but how do we know? So we'll move forward. Any other questions of Mr. Bellavance? McGinn?
I think, Mr. Chairman, just administratively, this is going to go to the full council later, so we want to move it out of committee, I believe. So I would make a motion to move this out of industrial and community development with a positive recommendation to the full council. So moved, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. We were looking for that. Any comments on Councilor McGinn's motion? There being none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Rossignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, councilors. I'll take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Thank you. We are adjourned.
I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Peabody City Council Finance Committee. Present for the committee this evening are Councilors Gamache, Gould, Manning Martin, and Turco, and myself as chair. Also present, Councilors Welton, Peach, Daigle, City Council President Melville, and Councilor Rossignol. We have two items on the agenda this evening. First item, transfer of funds, CPC Emerson Cemetery Restoration, an amount of $14,245. Mr. Gingras.
Thank you. This is a request to repair gravestones and do a survey of the gravestones at a historic cemetery, the Emerson Cemetery Restoration Program.
Thank you, Mr. Gingras. Questions from the committee? Questions from other councilors? Seeing none, Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion if proceed, Mr. Chairman.
So the motion is
No, I'll make the motion. I just
Yeah,
want
proceed, please.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to transfer from account number 270-0000-33021, CPC Historic Preservation, in the amount of $14,245, to account number 270-181158563-2022-000505, to category CPC Emerson Cemetery Restoration, again in the amount of $14,245. So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Councilors, you heard the motion from Councilor Gould. On the motion, seeing none, roll call.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Yes. Gamache. Turco.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Second item on the agenda, transfer fund, cable fund expense, an amount of $120,000. Mr. Gingras.
Thank you. This is an annual payment from Comcast to the city for $120,000 that we will then transfer as part of our agreement to the Peabody Access Television.
Thank you, Mr. Gingras. Questions from the committee? Questions from other councilors? Councilor Gould.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to transfer from account 270-0000-33017, category Receipts Received Cable Fund, in the amount of $120,000, to account 270-0000-53007, category Cable Fund Expense, again in the amount of $120,000. So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Councilors, you heard the motion from Councilor Gould. On the motion, seeing none, roll call.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Gamache. Turco. McGinn.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
This time I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Councilors, we are adjourned.
We're going to get started in 1 minute. Good evening. This meeting will come to order. The City Council will convene on Thursday, July 14th to hold a regular meeting at 7:30 p.m. for the purpose of discussing any and all business via in-person and remote participation in accordance with Chapter 48 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Sections 20A, B, and C of the Acts of 2021 signed into law by Governor Baker on June 16th, 2021. Alternative public access to this meeting shall be provided in the following manner. 1, this meeting is being televised by Peabody Access Television on cable channel 9. 2, real-time public comment during public hearings can be addressed to the Peabody City Council using the Zoom virtual meeting software for remote access. Users may view the meeting and make a comment or question to the chair via the audio option. Please visit www.peabody-ma.gov for Zoom information. This meeting is being taped by Peabody Access Television and is also being recorded by the City Council stenographer. Please rise for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move approval of the recollection present. 24th, 23rd.
You heard the motion from Councilor Gould to approve the record from special meeting minutes and the regular meeting minutes. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. If there's no objection from the council, I'd accept the motion to receive item 7A, the various appointments from His Honor the Mayor.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
You heard the motion from Councilor Gould. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Have the mayor come up.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening to you. Good evening to councilors. Hope everybody's doing well. I'm very happy to be here tonight. I have two appointments to bring forward for hopeful approval. Two people that I think will be great asset to the city of Peabody and to what we're working towards. So first is Allie Haydock. Allie be moving forward with requesting approval to have her appointed as the executive director of the Peabody Children's Museum. Things are going very well with the museum. Construction is under full swing over at 10 Main Street. Sprinkler system, new flooring, some bathroom updates. Very excited about the progress taking place there, but certainly a key part of hopefully this successful endeavor will be to have the right person in place, and I think we have that person with Allie Haydock. We had a number of interviews. We had some wonderful candidates that applied for the position, and we felt that Allie's skill set and her background really fit well with what we were looking to do. I wanted to recognize and thank our committee that met with the applicants and handled the interviews. Beth O'Donnell from our Human Resources Department, as well as our team of Martha Holden, Camille Bartlett, and Tim Brown. I also wanted to mention that Craig Welton has been serving on the board as well. I wanted to thank Mr. Welton for his attention and time he's been donating, volunteering for this important work. But Allie has an outstanding background. All of you have seen her resume. I think many of you have already known her from her work with Citizens Inn over the last number of years. She's been a key part of that team for a number of years and has done some quality work for Peabody and for this area. Very accomplished resume, very accomplished background. I think she'll be an outstanding fit for what we're looking to do. She's already hitting the ground running, setting up appointments, reaching out to potential partners and things. So I think Ally is going to be an excellent addition and wanted to bring her forward. She's here today. Certainly, her and I are able to answer any questions, and wanted to see if it's okay to have Ally come up.
Thank you all for having me. Thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled for this opportunity. You know, my time at Citizens Inn, I really enjoyed right up the street. We raised a lot of money. And I think the most important takeaway from my time at Citizens was working with the kids there and the funding that we got for those programs. And, you know, it made me realize that the most important investment you can make is really in that next generation. And I think it's going to just do wonders for the city, for the economy, for the kids, for the families. It's going to serve more than just Peabody. It's going to be the North Shore, really be a destination. So I'm just thrilled to be in this role and to work with all of you. To have the city's support is just incredible to get something started strong. Already being in City Hall, I can see the value that this being a city position will bring to get started. And as the mayor said, I'm already working on funders, so. But thank you all very much, and I hope to work with you all and meet you maybe one-on-one and talk about how we can work together.
Councilor Gould?
Thank you.
I just want to state Councilor O'Neill has just joined us as well.
Thank you.
Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've had the fortune of knowing Ally through a number of different roles she played at Citizens Inn, and it was a great choice, Mayor. And Ally will hit the ground running, and it's a pleasure to have you on board. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Councilor Welton?
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, I also want to extend my enthusiasm for Ally in this position. I know as we had many discussions about the creation of a children's museum, one of the issues that we did have some hesitancy on and some good conversations back and forth was making sure that we had somebody who could hit the ground running and raise the significant funds needed to ensure that this is going to be a success and not be something that the city would be funding for the foreseeable future. So in the very first meeting that I had with Ally, I was very enthusiastic to learn of her fundraising plan that she was already working on identifying and cultivating funders and donors, and I feel very confident that this is absolutely the right person for the position, and I think not only will she be successful in the role, but the Children's Museum will be very successful as a result. So thank you very much, Ally, and looking forward to working with you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Daigle?
Thank you, Mr. President. Ally, I just want to say your resume is very extensive and impressive, and I think we would be lucky to have you. And selfishly, as a parent with a child with autism, I love to see that you have experience with that because I think that will be very helpful with the museum. So I look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other councilors? Mr. Mayor, do you want to, what's the will of the council? Do you want to take the vote now, or do you want to do it all in one? Councilor Gould, do you want to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve Ally as the new director of the Ally Haydock, as the new director of the Children's Museum, executive director of the Children's Museum. So moved.
You heard the motion of Councilor Gould. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote.
Councilors Rossignol. I'm sorry, Gould.
Yes.
Rossignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
O'Neill. That's a
Councilor
yes.
O'Neill is a yes.
Thumbs up. McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor? Ally, welcome.
Thank you, Council. Thank you for that support. Also very excited to bring forward to you a new Assistant City Solicitor that I propose for appointment. Liz Lashway is a very accomplished attorney for a number of years. You have her resume. She has private practice as well as working for state and She was a city solicitor for a number of years with the city of Cambridge, working with the ABCC on the state level, and then she has a private practice that she's been operating now for a few years. Has a wide variety of skills and background that we think will be a great addition to the needs of our solicitor's office, and very happy and excited to bring her on board. Already discussing cases with her. Liz is here today. I wanted to, if it's okay, Mr. President, to bring her forward for the introduction, but very excited about this opportunity to bring Liz on board, and I think she's going to be a great asset for the city of Peabody and for our law department.
Attorney Lashway?
Good evening. Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here and thrilled for this opportunity. I previously worked for the city of Cambridge a number of years ago. I was there for about 9 years, and I loved the work. And when I started my private practice a couple years ago, I immediately thought I wanted to practice municipal law again. So I'm thrilled to be here and thrilled to have this opportunity to work for and with the city of Peabody. So thank you.
Any councilors? Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Attorney Lashway, as I said when we met privately there briefly, it's a very impressive resume, and very much looking forward to working with you, so welcome.
Thank you.
Any other councilors? Councilor Manny Martin.
Yes, I'd like to remark, unless I'm wrong, I think this is the first woman assistant city solicitor in that office, so welcome aboard. Happy to have you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other councilors? For my part, I can tell you that Attorney Lashway is the consummate professional. I think she'll add a lot to that office. Councilor Gould, would you like to make a motion?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to follow the mayor's recommendation and approve Elizabeth Lashway, Attorney Elizabeth Lashway, as Assistant City Solicitor. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor Gould. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
O'Neill. McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you and welcome aboard. All right, moving on to the next item, which is the mayor's veto message regarding motion P332-22 from May 12th, 2022. I'd entertain.
Under suspension of rules, move to receive, move to approve the out of order and allow the mayor to speak.
You move to, I'm sorry, Council, I could barely hear you. So move to receive item 10A. Is that
Correct.
10C, excuse me.
And allow the mayor to speak, yes.
Yep. You heard the motion from Councilor Gamache. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. The mayor requests Councilor McGinn. Oh, I'm sorry, that's right. We have to do a roll call with Councilor O'Neill with this being received. So we're going to do a roll call vote. Thank you, Councilor McGinn.
Councilors Gould. Rozignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Welton. O'Neill. McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
All right. So the mayor has a couple of comments to make, and then we'll open up to the council. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, good evening, Council. Great to be with you. In reflecting on our last meeting from a couple of weeks ago, I thought a lot of fair points were made, and I wanted to make sure that all of you knew that those comments did not fall on deaf ears. You have a very, very difficult job. Certainly I do, and certainly the City Solicitor's Office. And I know that there's ways that we can improve to make sure that we're handling the work that all of you need, the information that all of you need to in order to represent the citizens of Peabody and to make the right decisions. So I want to work with you in meetings ahead. Perhaps we can set up future meetings to meet as a group in the appropriate subcommittee to come up with a system that works best for all of you. We have been operating shorthanded for the last couple of months with Adam Buckley taking a position with the Peabody Municipal Light Plant. Certainly now with Attorney Lashway joining our department, I think that's going to really allow us to move forward and get the work that we need to and get the information over to you to make sure that, again, we're meeting your needs as well as City Hall's needs and the law department's needs. So I'm looking forward to working with you, coming up with a way for it to work for everybody. I know with some tweaking and some input from everybody that we can come up with a system that makes sense and that can work for all of us. So I wanted to open with that. Certainly happy to answer any questions, Mr. President, but looking forward to maybe seeing if we could have these discussions in future meetings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And you know, as you know, 2 weeks ago, the first veto of the funding for the position, I agreed with your veto. It was, as I said at that time, it was meant to be a placeholder because you were, Mr. Gingrich, were going over the budget at the time. In the event you did want to support funding for that. So you opted not to, in which case I supported your veto and your right to do that. This is a little bit different to me. This, I feel, almost exactly like you just said, a discussion needs to be had, and that's all this motion was. And when I asked for clarity on that motion, you vetoed the first form of the motion, which was erroneous. That wasn't what I said in the meeting. This motion that later came forward was the actual verbiage that I used in the meeting, which was just to refer this to legal subcommittee for discussion amongst this council. And I still maintain that this should be discussed, whether your president, our new assistant city solicitor, current city solicitors should be there. I think that after 7 years on the council, I've had some great discussions, some minutia involved in the middle. We've never denied discussion by anybody in this council. If you take the subject matter off the table, subject matter of a city solicitor, it is a suggestion from a council that we move to subcommittee for a discussion. And I believe that that right stays within this council. We do have the right to discuss anything that we would like, whether it be the paint color in the Wigan Auditorium or a city solicitor. So it's more so, Mayor, just a protective right of the council that we can discuss what we want, which I'm hoping that this council sees that way, that we should be able to do that and move forward with this discussion. The discussion may go nowhere, Mayor. It may, as I said, I'm confident in this group. It's been some of the best discussions that I've had on the council with this group, specifically due to the charter. I'm confident that they'll bring something to the table in subcommittee, and whether any motions come out of that, I don't know. Probably not, but it serves some purpose there. It serves purpose for future councils. You had mentioned that 10 years ago, the council you served on brought forward this issue. I don't believe Mayor Bonfanti vetoed you discussing, and I believe Councilor Gamache brought forward this issue said he discussed it 20 years ago with his council. I don't believe that Mayor Turigian, or maybe it was Bonfanti or Turigian, vetoed that motion. They allowed the discussion to take forward through your own admission. So I do think this is a simple motion to move forward. I'm glad Ms. Haydock is here. I'm glad that she has the municipal, state, and federal experience that she has. And she, if anybody didn't notice, she also serves as a town meeting member in Wellesley. So I think she may have come across similar discussion. I think the discussions come up in many cities and towns. Lastly, I'll say I understand the Boston ruling, the Menino versus the Boston City Council case that you referenced. That case is 22 years ago. I don't know if it's really relevant to the city of Peabody in any way. The city of Boston doesn't even have an elected school committee because they opted to make that an appointment. They pulled that out. The city of Boston just recently was sent to me. They have the full right to reallocate funding from the mayor's budget to anywhere they would like by a supermajority. So cities and towns are different. So with all that said, Mayor, that's all this is the will to have a discussion on the issue. Again, nothing may come of that. Some motion may come of that you later veto. I don't know. But I would like to have the discussion with this council, and I appreciate the opportunity to have the discussion with the 11 of us. So I would vote to override the veto. Thank you.
Thank you. If I could, I'm very much, certainly this needs to be discussed. The veto was made because of confusion on the motion. I had never had a motion come to me before, and then at the next meeting changed. So I am all for having this discussion. That's why I'm here today to offer that, and I think that's very well deserved. I had some confusion over the motion. I hadn't spoken to you about it before, so it was a little bit different when it came at me in a new form. But to me, of course, this is an important meeting, important topic to discuss. I am all for it. Be willing to work with Mr. Melville and whoever in terms of having these future meetings. But 100%, we need to have meetings. We're discussing topics and everything. And there was some confusion, again, because I had never had a motion come to me a second time after I had certainly vetoed an earlier motion. But I'm all for moving forward. I don't want to look behind, I want to look back. Let's move forward, make sure it works for you, make sure it works for me, make sure it works for the city solicitor's office. And I'm excited that we have full staff and we can move forward, and really looking forward to the discussions ahead. In terms of the veto, I'll kind of leave that up to you. I veto the motion because, again, I was confused. It had never come to me in that form. But in terms of having this future discussions, absolutely, let's have them. I think it's important.
Thank you. Just for, as a point of information, we had updated we had made a change to the record, if you remember at that meeting, the following meeting, based off of the way that the intention of Councilor Turco at that time. Any other councilors? Councilor Manny Martin.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So through you to the mayor, did you get the corrected motion separately after, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, it was sent to me at a later date. And then again, I was kind of not certain exactly what, it talked about a structure of the legal department. And I think that's something that we could work out in future meetings and again, try to benefit everybody. So, yes.
And you received it, but you didn't choose to withdraw the veto. So we still have a veto of a motion that the council made. And on the floor now we have a motion to override that veto. So kind of the horse has left the barn here. So there is a veto on the floor. There's a motion to override the veto, and I'll support the motion to override the veto.
Certainly, I'm willing to withdraw the veto. To me, we're all in the same, I think we all want the same thing here. So to me, it's just moving forward, not looking back, moving forward. And I'm willing to withdraw the veto. Again, it was made because of confusion about the motion. It had never come to me in that form before. So I'm willing to move forward, and I think we can accomplish what we all want.
Thank you, Mayor. At this point, we can't withdraw the veto we would essentially override the veto, would get us at the same place as withdrawing it. Councilor Manny Martin.
That being said, since I have the floor, I will defer to Councilor Turco what he'd like to do, if he'd like to withdraw his motion and accept the mayor's withdrawal of his veto. I will defer to Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Councilor Manning Martin. Thank you, Mr. President. Councilor Manning, it was stated by the clerk and the council president that we couldn't allow the mayor to withdraw at this point. So we have to move forward with overriding the veto if that's the will of the council. So my motion would just, and Mayor, I really sincerely appreciate your willingness to discuss this. Again, I think it's important to all of us, but I would move to override the mayor's veto. So moved.
You heard the motion on the floor. Councilor Manny Martin.
Yes. Could you clarify where you get that ruling, Mr. President?
So it's currently, because it's before the council as a veto, if we were to, and we had already voted on this particular veto under the process and the charter, we have to act on the veto message of the mayor. And I had looked into this ahead of time and confirmed it. But at the end of the day, if we override the veto, we'll be at the same place as if it was withdrawn.
Yes, understood. Thank you very much. Again, back to Councilor Turco. I'll support his motion. Thank you.
Councilor Turco?
I'll leave the motion as stands on the floor.
We have a motion on the floor, and then a yes vote would override the veto. So that a yes vote would override. Councilor O'Neill, I know you're on the phone. You finally got through. Did you want to add anything? No. You have to unmute your phone, Councilor. Okay. So, Councilor Gamache, we have a motion on the floor.
Yeah, just for clarification, If we override the mayor's veto, we're back to square one.
That's correct.
What does that do to the original motion that was previously made? Is it constructive approval by the mayor?
This is based on the motion. This would go to the subcommittee for review. This was the subcommittee issue. This was not to add the position.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Mr. President, if I could,
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, and I certainly support overriding the veto. Again, I think we all want the same thing here, and I'm very much in support of that. Again, it was made out of confusion, but I think we all have the same goal, and I'm, again, looking forward to working with everybody.
Just for clarification, just so we're all on the same page, I'm going to have the clerk read the motion that was vetoed, just so we all understand what the actual motion was.
Motion made by Councilor Turco, move to refer the issue of retaining legal representation for the City Council and establishing its structure to the Legal Affairs Committee to discuss amending Article 2, Section 2-12.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor from Councilor Turco. A yes vote would override. Any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please. Councilor O'Neill stepped off because he couldn't. The audio wasn't working for him.
Councilors Gould,
Yes.
Rozignol,
Yes.
Manning Martin,
Yes.
Peach,
Yes.
Welton,
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco,
Yes.
Daigle,
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Okay.
Thank you, Council. Appreciate your work. Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to item 4A, which is a recessed hearing from June 23rd, 2022, regarding an amending zoning map to include within the Mills Overlay District. Councilor Daigle.
Thank you, Mr. President. As an employee of 58 Pulaski Street, Mills 58, I am going to recuse myself for the record and step out of the room. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Daigle. Okay, councilors, we don't have to read this because it was recessed, but we did receive a late communication. Councilor Peach?
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive late communication 5.
You heard the motion from Councilor Peach. All in favor? Any opposed? To vote. Would Mr. Bellavance please step up? And I know we recessed this for further information.
Good evening, Kurt Bellavance, Community Development Director for the City of Peabody. I think since the last meeting, we had worked with the applicant. We talked to the abutters attorneys, and what we're basically looking at doing is, if you've seen the mill overlay, it's presented, it's in place, but I'm really here to answer any specific questions that the council may have in regards to that since our last meeting.
Thank you. Councilor Peach, would you also move to receive item 8J?
So moved, Mr. President, and I'll include item 8K in there as well.
Hear the motion from Councilor Peach. All in favor? Any opposed? To vote. Is anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor of this proposal amendment? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor? If you just come up and state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Mr. President, honorable members. My name is Bill Sheehan. I practice law in Peabody, Massachusetts, and I'm here in support, but with a caveat. My client is VRRM LLC and Sideways LLC. Those are two companies who are owned by Margaret Kelly. Between those two companies, she owns some 13.5 acres that is immediately to the west of the one parcel that is now makes up the Mill Overlay District.
The proposal before the council is to add another parcel across rear Pulaski Street from the existing parcel that now makes up that mill overlay district. What we would like the council to consider is including our two parcels. There is no basis to differentiate with respect to the land among the one parcel that's now zoned MOD, the parcel that is proposed to be zoned MOD, and my client's 13.5 acres. So what we're asking the council to do this evening is to defer action on the proposal as it is now, so as to give the Community Development Department and others as necessary the opportunity to investigate and analyze whether or not the zoning amendment should be more far-reaching than it is proposed to be today. I had the opportunity, Mr. Bellavance was kind enough to meet with me today to discuss that, and I'm hoping that the council will see it that way. This is not a request for a special permit. Should not be dealing with just one person's land, particularly whereas here we're dealing with an industrial site which is made up of a number of owners. There is good evidence to support the proposition that the future of this site, when I say this site, it's what I've referred to as the Pulaski Industrial Site in my letters. The future of this site may well not be entirely industrial, may very well include commercial uses, such as the commercial uses that are presently in existence at the Mills 58 property. And we would like to have the opportunity to engage in those future uses if we decide to do so going forward. We have also raised with the Community Development Department, just for your consideration, whether or not multifamily residential is something that this council would like to include among the uses by way of special permit in the Mill Overlay District. The reason we raise that for consideration is that there is presently before the Zoning Board of Appeals, by way of Chapter 40B application, a proposal to create a number of residential units at that building that I alluded to at Mills 58. Back in 2019, when this council determined to create the Mill Overlay District, as I look at the minutes, there was at least some discussion or consideration about whether or not multifamily residential should be considered. There was a concern, a very understandable concern on the part of the council as to whether or not there might be a danger in mixing industrial/commercial use on the one hand and residential use on the other. And it's a concern that my clients have as well, particularly with respect to their existing industrial use. The reason that I thought, and my client thought, that it might be worthy of consideration 3 years later is if there is going to be multifamily residential in that area, by way of a zoning amendment, which would include not only enlarging the map as we proposed, but also putting some protections in place via the special permit process for residential use so as to protect against any claims by residential users that would seek to put out of business, in plain English, the industrial and commercial uses that presently exist. So 2 considerations, please, for the council, recognizing that this is an issue that has to be investigated. Therefore, our request for deferral, we think it is more appropriate than rezoning by way of map change this area parcel by parcel, which I would suggest respectfully the law disfavors. So with that, I thank you for your time. Here to answer any questions that you may have. I've been also in contact with Councilor Peach, who's been kind enough to hear me out, and I don't know if she has anything to say at this time, but with that said, thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the audience wish to speak in favor? Anybody else in the audience wish to speak in favor? Anybody on Zoom wish to speak in favor? If you're on Zoom and you wish to speak on this particular, in favor of this particular amendment to the zoning on item 4A, please raise your hand via Zoom. Not seeing anything. Anybody in the audience wish to speak in opposition? Anybody in the audience wish to speak on an opposition? Anybody on Zoom wish to speak in opposition? Okay, Councilor Peach?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just so the council knows, I do plan to request a continuance to our August 25th meeting. I didn't want to make that motion. If other councilors wanted to comment, I'll be holding my comments until the next meeting.
Thank you, Councilor Peach. Any other councilors? Any other councilors? Seeing none, Councilor Peach?
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to continue this hearing, this zoning change to August 25th. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor Peach. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. This particular meeting will be recessed again until the next meeting. Just a point of, can the councilors hear okay with the fans on? If you could just speak into your microphone, I don't have the greatest of hearing, so if that's the case, and we'll see how the night goes. If it starts to cool off, maybe we can shut the fans off. All right, before we move on to item 4B, we did have just to make sure that we're in order correctly, we had a subcommittee meeting of industrial community development that was directly impacted this particular item I would, under suspension of the rules, I would move to go to reports of the subcommittee from industrial and community development for Councilor Gould.
So moved.
Thank you,
The
Mr.
motion, all in favor, any opposed, vote. Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had a motion, we had discussion on the proposed zoning amendment. There was a motion by Councilor McGinn to move out of committee the proposed zoning amendment, section 4.2.5, business under schedule of use regulations, by adding as a use allowed by special permit, bakery, retail in the BR1 zoning district. So moved, Mr. President. And that passed, I'm sorry, that passed 5-0 in subcommittee.
You heard the motion from Councilor Gould. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, we'll do it just because it's
Councilors Gould,
Yes.
Rossignol,
Yes.
Manning Martin,
Yes.
Peach,
Yes.
Welton,
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Gamache, Turco,
Yes.
Daigle, Melville.
yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
All right, we'll move on to item 4B. The clerk will read the notice.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, July 14th, 2022, at 7:30 p.m. in the Frank L. Wigan Auditorium, City Hall, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., and remotely via Zoom in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 40A, Section 5 of the Massachusetts General Laws to consider amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Peabody as follows. Be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Peabody as follows, that the zoning ordinance of the City of Peabody, entitled Zoning Ordinance 2011 as amended, is hereby further amended as follows. Section 1, by amending Section 4.2.5 Business under Schedule of Use Regulations by adding as a use allowed by special permit, SP, bakery retail in the BR1 zoning district. Section 2, all ordinances or parts of ordinances inconsistent herewith are hereby repealed. Section 3, this ordinance shall take effect as provided by law. For remote participation using the Zoom platform, please visit www.peabody-ma.gov under calendar on the homepage or contact the City Clerk's office. Peabody City Council, Councilor Ryan Melville, City Council President.
Would the applicant, or the petitioner for the zoning amendment please come up, give us a summary of what you're looking to do?
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the City Council. My name is John Kelty. I'm an attorney. I have offices at 40 Lowell Street in Peabody, Mass. I appear on behalf of the owners of the property at 130 Newbury Street who have a prospective tenant moving from a former location in South Peabody and wants to locate into 130 Newbury Street, and it was discovered that bakery uses are not allowed at all in the BR1 zoning district. I don't think that that was ever planned or thought out. I think it came as kind of a Scrivener error. And having reported it out of committee favorably, it would seem to me that the next step would be that this board must await the recommendation of the planning board. The planning board's hearing will be August 4th, and I'm respectfully requesting that this matter be continued until your late August meeting. I think it's 27, 28, 21?
25th.
25th. And as such, I would respectfully request that the matter be continued until the report of the planning board is received, and it would be appropriate for this council to act. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Kelty. Anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor? Anybody on Zoom wish to speak in favor? They can raise their hand. Seeing none, anybody in the audience wish to speak in opposition? Anybody wish to speak in opposition? Seeing none, Councilor Gamache.
Yes, if there's no questions from the council and nobody in the audience, I'd move to recess this to the meeting of August 25th. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor Gamache. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item 4C. The clerk will read the notice.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, July 14th, 2022, at 7:30 p.m. in the Frank L. Wigan Auditorium, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., and remotely via Zoom on the application from The Next Thing, LLC, 5 Central Street, Peabody, Mass., requesting an amendment to an existing entertainment license, specifically changing the hours for non-live entertainment and live entertainment to 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., that is actually an error. It should be 12:30 a.m. 6 days a week, Monday through Thursday, at said 5 Central Street, Peabody, Mass. For remote participation using the Zoom platform, please visit www.peabody-ma.gov under Calendar on the homepage or contact the City Clerk's office. Peabody City Council, Councilor Ryan Melville, City Council President.
The petitioner come up, if you'll come up, give us your name and address for the record and what you're looking to do.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Emil Sepulveda. I'm the owner of the Next Thing at 5 Central Street, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here today. I am here to ultimately extend or amend the existing hours for the entertainment license, and ultimately could turn it over to Stephanie so she could elaborate on the hours.
Thank you, Emil. Anybody in the audience, we're going to do the public side. Anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor? Anybody wish to speak in favor? Anybody on Zoom wish to speak in favor? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in opposition? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in opposition? Anybody on Zoom? Not seeing any. Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. I had the opportunity to meet with Emil, and we discussed really what the need was for his restaurant in order to be successful. And what hours would fit the community and then also fit his business. So under suspension of the rules, I'll move to receive item 8H, which details the hours.
You heard the motion from Councilor Peach. All in favor? Any opposed? The vote. Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. So there was an error on the last line of that communication. So essentially, in order to allow the restaurant to operate entertainment the days and the hours that they really need to be successful, I tried to break it out into 4 different categories, being non-live entertainment, which is TVs and radios, Monday through Sunday, 11 a.m. to 1 a.m., which is their operating hours. Non-amplified live entertainment, they do paint nights and craft nights there, so that's kind of the idea there. Monday through Sunday, 11 a.m. to 12:30 a.m. And live entertainment with 1 amp, thinking karaoke or trivia night, to be Tuesday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 12:30 a.m., and Sunday through Monday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then have the live entertainment with more than 1 amp or more than 1 instrument, Thursday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 12:30 a.m., Sunday through Monday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. I'm going out of order. Tuesday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. I know this is a lot and complicated, but we're trying to be respectful of the residential portion of downtown while allowing a successful restaurant to continue to be successful.
Thank you, Councilor Peach. Any other councilors? Councilor Turco, and then Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wasn't intending on saying anything, but as I was looking at your meal, I just had to say, right from the beginning, I mean, when you opened up at 10 Lowell, and then we bought the building, and you had to leave, and then you moved down the street, and then, you know, you handle that great, and then you now moved to 5 Central, and some changes to you've handled everything, like, with grace and dignity, and we haven't, I mean, you did it with no complaints, and I just want to say thank you, because, you know, honestly, you've been pretty much one of the mainstays of downtown Peabody for quite a while now, and you went through some hoops to get where you are, so I support this, and you know, I just want to say thank you for all the work.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It has been very difficult, but it's been actually very easy to work with all of you, so I appreciate that.
Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Along the lines of what Councilor Turco just said, I just wanted to express my appreciation for what NextMex has been doing. Happy that you've been able to get a foothold and grow downtown. As I said the last time you were before us, it's just unfortunate you had to sneak over the line from Ward 2 to Ward 3. But again, I appreciate you working with Councilor Peach to modify this a little bit to take into consideration the fact that it's in a residential building, so forth. I don't expect any issues. I think this kind of recognition of that there's really more than one thing here is something that is probably going to come up again in some of the other entertainment licenses going forward. You know, it's not live and non-live exclusively. There's kind of this middle ground of social entertainment that I think you're involved with that I think justifies exactly what Councilor Peach, the approach that she's taken here. So appreciate you working cooperatively on that and the work you did on this as well, Councilor Peach. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. President. Emile, you have 30 seconds of people listening in from home. Tell us how you're doing. Things are well? Business well?
Absolutely. Business is definitely doing well. Can't complain. It was definitely a good move to relocate to the other location. You know, we're in the process of turning over the previous location to a different restaurant, so that should definitely be, it's at full force now, so we're definitely should be ready to open that other location sometime mid-September. Month of August will be mostly recipe testing and all of that, but the NextMex is doing great at that existing location now.
Good
Thank
luck.
you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other councilors? Email, congratulations. Long way from 75 State Street, right? Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to close the public hearing.
Heard the motion from Councilor Peach. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to approve the application from the NextMex Thing, 5 Central Street, Peabody, requesting an amendment to existing entertainment license, specifically changing the hours to, this is where I should read that, non-live entertainment Monday through Sunday, 11 a.m. to 1 a.m., non-amplified live entertainment Monday through Sunday, 11 a.m. to 12:30 a.m., live entertainment with 1 amp, Tuesday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 12:30 a.m., Sunday through Monday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., live entertainment with more than 1 amp or more than 1 instrument, Thursday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 12:30 a.m., Sunday through Monday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., Tuesday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. at said 5 Central Street, Peabody, Mass. So moved.
Heard the motion from Councilor Peach. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Rossignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Welton. McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Thank you all for your time. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Congratulations. Moving on to item 4D. The clerk will read the public notice.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, July 14th, 2022, at 7:30 p.m. in the Frank L. Wigan Auditorium, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., and remotely via Zoom on the application from Toscana Forno, LLC, DBA Toscana Forno, 23 Upton Street, Peabody, Mass., requesting an entertainment license for non-live entertainment, specifically television, radio, digital, jukebox, and internet radio, and live entertainment, specifically live music provided by no more than a 5-piece band, DJ karaoke, comedy stand-up at 139 Linfield Street, Peabody, Mass. For remote participation using the Zoom platform, please visit www.peabody-ma.gov under calendar on the homepage or contact the City Clerk's office. Peabody City Council, Councilor Ryan Melville, City Council President.
Thank you. Would the petitioner give us the name and address for the record and a summary of what you're looking to do?
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is John Kelty. I'm an attorney. I have offices at 40 Lowell Street in Peabody, Massachusetts, and I appear on behalf of Toscana Forno, LLC, which will be a restaurant located at 138 Linfield Street in Peabody, Massachusetts. It's the site of the former Stonewood Tavern. With me this evening is Angelo Perina, the manager of record at this facility. We have received a special permit from the City Council, and we have transferred the liquor license through the licensing board. That happened just Monday night. And this evening we seek to have the granting of an entertainment license. And as the advertisement was read into the record by the clerk, we're seeking television, radio, digital jukebox, and internet radio, live entertainment. We're saying specifically we would have no more than a 5-piece band. We would also have a DJ, karaoke, and we're asking for permission to have comedy stand-up, in as much as some of the functions that are planned these days, either fundraisers, charitable events, sometimes more often than in the past, hinge around a comedy stand-up act rather than a band or some such thing. We've had the opportunity to review with Councilor Welton the Stonewood Tavern entertainment license that was granted by this council some years ago. We've had the opportunity to review the comments of the various other boards here in the city. They've all deemed no objection, and we would respectfully request that this permit be granted. I think if we were to mirror the conditions that were first placed on Stonewood, I think that the conditions, there are 15 of them, of which number 1, I think, should be discussed this evening, and that is, does there need be a police detail at every single function that occurs in the restaurant? Our discussion before the meeting and last week was, should we put in place a number that would trigger the need for police detail, and the police detail we recognize would also be helpful with traffic control and the parking situation. And permit number 15, I'm sorry, condition number 15 is that there be follow-up sound studies on some doors. The doors are there. We don't think that, I don't know whether or not Stonewood had those follow-up studies, but we're asking that that condition be removed. The rest of the conditions we're happy to live with, and I'm happy to answer any questions, and Angelo Perina is here this evening, and he'll happily answer any questions that you may have. We have a different, I think I may have said this in the special permit presentation, but we have a different theme at this particular facility. As you know, Toscano operates up on Bourbon Street, and they've been very successful there with a very traditional and somewhat custom family recipe Tuscan foods. This theme will be more tapas-oriented and wood oven-fired pizza oven. And again, we're happy to answer questions that you may have.
Thank you, Attorney Kelty. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak in favor? Wishes to speak in favor? If you would like to come up, you can state your name and address for the record if you'd like to speak in favor. We're going to have a section if you want to speak in opposition is next. But if you want to speak in favor.
In favor of most of the things, yes.
Okay, you can just give us your name and address for the record, and you can just...
Ann Trainer, 140 Linfield Street, Peabody. And I'm right across from where Stonewood was, or what it's going to be. My only main concern is with the noise. You know, if they keep the doors closed at all times, then there won't be a problem, you know. But that's my concern with the noise.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else in the audience that wishes to speak in favor? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor? Anybody on Zoom wish to speak in favor? Not seeing anybody with their hands up. Anybody wish to speak in opposition? If you could just give us your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you, Jack. My name's Richard Medina, 1-B Laurel Street, and I live right across about 100 yards from the Stonewood Tavern, that plaza. My concern is that this, I have no concern about the restaurant itself, Mr. President. The restaurant itself is not an issue. It's the amber room, the function room that he is proposing. What he is proposing is a nightclub with live music, dancing, and catering to a clientele that's not from the neighborhood, but from a general broad area. Even when Stonewood was operating, I saw ads in Boston from advertising Stonewood. So my concern is that this is not a neighborhood function place. This is a area-wide. And it's going to be a nightclub. And I'm not sure whether nightclubs are covered under the business zoning, that little neighborhood zoning that's allowed. If Toscano wanted to build a nightclub, if that was his intention, there were 2 lots up in Route 1 next to the Golden Banana that are empty. If his intention was a nightclub, which he is doing, that's the adult entertainment area. Linfield Street is single-family, 2-family neighbors. And you're going to bring a nightclub with everything that a nightclub, the evil of a nightclub. I'm no prude. I love to sing and I love to dance. I am not a prude. And I like to have a good time as much as anybody. But there's a time and a place for all of that stuff. I noticed the Marriott, I drove by today. The Marriott is a wonderful hotel, and they have a big function area, but they don't have a nightclub. You wonder why a place like that didn't put a nightclub up there. Because a nightclub attracts a lot of different people, and it could cause trouble. And people don't want trouble, particularly businesses with liabilities. I'm going to, let's see what I said here. Oh, I want to leave that function room, as Mr. Kelty said, as a function room. If they want to have a charity event, a comedy, then you get a special permit for that night for a comedy hour. And that's a one-night function to raise money for charity. No one's against that. I'm not against that. But it can be used for political gatherings. But that's the idea of the function room. And that's what that room should stay. And I'm going to finish up with saying, nothing good happens after midnight. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience wish to speak in opposition? Anybody else wish to speak in opposition? Anybody on Zoom wish to speak in opposition? Seeing none, Councilor Welton.
Thank you, Mr. President. And thank you, Mr. Medina and Ms. Trainer, for your comments as well. I did have the opportunity to speak with Attorney Kelty and Mr. Perina as well. I do understand the concerns about the noise. However, I am in favor of supporting this special permit request. I do believe the previous conditions that were outlined, as Attorney Kelty had suggested, for operation for the Stonewood Tavern, most of those are applicable as is. There's a few revisions, and as Attorney Kelty pointed out, I would like to discuss with my fellow colleagues condition number 1. But just to kind of reiterate some of the discussions that I had with Mr. Perina and Attorney Kelty in response to Mr. Medina's comments, I am particularly in favor of this project because it's a departure from what a traditional nightclub would look like in that neighborhood. You'll see that there's a number of conditions that were placed on the initial special permit application and entertainment license application for Stonewood Tavern because the intention of that previous entity was to conduct the Amber Room as a nightclub. You'll see even in function room condition number 5, all advertisements for restaurant and/or function room to mention Stonewood only. That was an effort, I believe, from the previous council to ensure that we weren't marketing a nightclub within a residential area. I'm confident in speaking to Mr. Perina that the intent for the use of that space is really more along the lines of special event celebrations like wedding parties, anniversary dinners, as Attorney Kelty mentioned, community fundraisers, that sort of thing. And I think that would be a welcome to our community, to our neighborhood, in as much as they're able to control the sound, which I know that there's a number of mitigation challenges that are in there that they'll address. And quite frankly, we've had Stonewood sit unoccupied for a number of months, number of years actually. Toscano does a great business on the other side of town, and I think I'm very excited that they're willing to take an investment in South Peabody and do so in a way that I really do believe will be a good benefit to the neighborhood. And sure, there will be people from outside of South Peabody that are visiting Toscano, but I don't believe that the concept that is being put forward is one that will bring an unwanted element, so to speak, to our community. So I would be more than happy to open it up to our fellow councilors, but I plan on supporting this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Welton. Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just in response to Mr. Medina's comments, and maybe for those that weren't aware, the Amber Room nightclub was originally proposed by Sal Palumbo back in 2014-15. This has nothing to do with the Amber Room nightclub, and we're talking about a function facility, not a nightclub. So I just wanted some clarity for the public. I wasn't on the council at the time, but I was I live in the neighborhood, and I did advocate for the neighborhood at the time. I think that we were pretty stringent in some of the, as you could see, some of the conditions on the entertainment license because of the title Amber Room Nightclub. But this is not what that is. So I fully support this. Jack, through you, Mr. President, to Attorney Kelty, I do believe that the sound is not an issue when those doors are closed. The double doors, when those were installed, there was zero neighborhood complaints about sound or music. So if you could relay that, I think your client is in the audience. When those front doors are closed, it negates any issues from the neighborhood at all. So I would appreciate if it stays that way. And Ms. Trainer being the closest resident to those front doors, she would be the first one to let me know, and I don't think that we had an issue after that came from her. So again, I support this, and good luck.
Councilor Gould and Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just want to clarify on a couple issues. Jack, Attorney Kelty, excuse me, you mentioned a police detail. Is that condition Are we approving that condition?
Would like to, we're not opposed to having a police detail, but we'd like to have that detail be triggered by a number. 125 would work very, very well for my client, given the capacity of the room. That would trigger. The room has a capacity in excess of 125, but it would be fine with my client, 100, 125. 125 is our preference. So yes, we'd happily do that. And there's no regularly operative, I think the council is understand this, and I'd like Mr. Medina to also understand. Toscana and Angelo Perina are not operating functions in that room. They're not open nightly. There'll be no such thing as the band being there 3 or 4 nights in a row and come on in and enjoy. You need to rent the room for a function, for a particular purpose, and otherwise there'd be no entertainment in that area of the building. So we're happy to take a condition that says if we exceed a certain number, and our preference would be 125, and the other is the doors is not an issue at all. We're happy to keep them closed. They should be closed.
Thank you. Thank you, Attorney Kelty. I'm sure Councilor Welton will take care of that number on condition for police. I think the last statement you made about the fact that it will not be a nightclub, segueing perfectly off of what Councilor Turco mentioned, that it is not a nightclub. I think that will bring a little bit of relief to Mr. Medina. I hope it does, because it's going to be booked for functions only, not a nightly place to go have dancing and music. So thank you, Attorney Kelty. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor Manny Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I would concur that this operation and proposal is completely different from the Stonewood and its attached Amber Room back in the day. So what I will say is that I think that we're very lucky in the city of Peabody to have a successful Toscana's in one end of Peabody, and then they're looking to expand in another area of Peabody instead of going to another city. So I think that that's really, really a positive for the city. And I do know that the owners are not only very responsible, but they're very approachable. So should the neighbors have any concerns at any point, I don't think that we're going to have any problem being able to approach the owners and ask for things to be managed should issues arise. So I support this, and I'm very happy to see Toscana's expanding and staying in the city of Peabody. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other councilors? Councilor Rosenau.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to concur with what's already been said by the councilors. I think this is a completely different use, and I'm 100% in favor of it. The one question I do have is with the AOH or the Elks or any of those function rooms, do we mandate when they have a function that they get a police detail? Is there a specific number? And the reason for my question is because if we're not putting those mandates on other entities, I don't know why would we be doing that in this instance, to be honest with you. I just think it's an undue burden. We don't have those limitations for the Elks, for the AOH, for the Knights of Columbus. Some of those are absolutely in residential areas. I don't know why we would end up strapping this business owner when those other organizations can have functions that are, in my mind, the same manner. That's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rosenau. Any other councilors? Councilor Turco?
Thank you for the opportunity again. I just wanted to, Mr. President, if I could respond to Councilor Rosenau through you. I believe the reason being is you're on a main thoroughfare in 125. The original police detail was for all events, and the change to 125 is fine with me. I think the concern always was that parking lot with multiple businesses could be very difficult with ingress and egress. And the last thing we wanted to have is cars backed out onto Linfield Street, issues with parking on Linfield Street. There were some issues in the past with the retail building across the street with vehicles parking there. I think it just did 125 patrons plus the restaurant, you know, which could amount to anywhere up to 175, 200 people at any given time. It makes sense to have some sort of police control in that area. So I would support the special permit with the condition of the police details for any time the function room is used over 125 patrons.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. I'll let Councilor Rosenau, you can respond, and then with Councilor Peach.
Thank you. And I understand the rationale behind it, but if you look at the Elks that's in a neighborhood, if you look at the Knights of Columbus that's on a major thoroughfare with no parking. So each individual business has their own issues. The Knights of Columbus, I mean, the AOH, the same thing. People end up using St. John's. So, and I understand it, and if that's the will of the council, obviously, I don't think it's ever fair if we hamstring or handicap one business when we're not doing it for others. That was my only point with the statements I made. If the petitioner and the business owner are willing to put those restrictions on themselves, so be it. That's just something that I would not be in favor of. Thank you.
Councilor Peach, then Councilor Welton.
Thank you, Mr. President. To start with the comments the council's been recently making about the police detail, I would align with Councilor Rossignol on that. I think we've talked a lot about the owners of Toscana's. I know them well, and they're very responsible. I think if they felt a police presence would help them run a better business and manage their parking or their functions, they will do that on their own. I do agree that we don't put this restriction on other businesses. When this restriction was put on Stonewood when I wasn't on the council, I thought it was very surprising, and I had the same thought then. Like, I don't think we've ever done that before. I know other communities do it. I'm not saying it's never existed. It obviously did, but again, if the applicant wants to put those restrictions on and they're amenable to it, I'll still support the permit, but I wouldn't not support the permit without that condition, is what I'm saying. And then secondly, through you to Councilor Welton, do you plan to include like everything on this? Or, because just the way that we're talking, it feels like some of these aren't applicable, and just wanted to point out on condition number 14, it's basically allowing entertainment in the function room not associated with a private function on certain holidays if they don't occur on a Sunday, but Easter is always on a Sunday. So if we just took that line out, I know that Toscana's, at their current location in West Peabody, does a lot of, like a huge Easter dinner. I usually pick up the takeout, so. But they're packed, and for them to even just be able to use that space, I don't know if it would apply here, but in order to serve just like regular dining patrons with some sort of live entertainment, I think that would be beneficial. Thank you.
Councilor Welton.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll keep it brief. I just do want to respond to Councilor Rossignol's comments. I absolutely understand the sentiment, and I want to be as flexible as we can for Toscana Forno to be successful there. The conversations that I've had with Attorney Kelty and Mr. Perina have been how to be as least restrictive as we can be there. I do, however, agree with Councilor Turco regarding the presence when we have a number that triggers an issue that might be existing with parking. And for those of you who may not be as familiar with that lot, and I know it's been unoccupied for a number of years at this point, but it can get very busy and parking can get very tricky. And if you have someone there for a party from out of the city, then it could be difficult. So I do think that I would be in favor of the higher number, the 125 that Attorney Kelty had suggested. I think that's more than reasonable, and I would be willing to include that as a condition to move forward. In response to Councilor Peach's question, my suggestion was, I was going to have the same question too, is I'm using the previous entertainment license as sort of the template for this entertainment license. So I guess that's a question to the clerk, and through the council president to the clerk, if when we're ready to close the public hearing and move forward with the conditions for a special permit, if you would like me to include all of the conditions that are applicable from the previous entertainment license.
Yes, if you could read through them all, that
Great.
would be great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No further comments. I'll save my breath.
Council Gamache.
Yeah, through you to Attorney Kelty, what's the maximum for the function room capacity?
Just short of 200.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other councilors? Seeing none, Councilor Welton.
Move to close. Move to close the public hearing.
Motion from Councilor Welton to close the public hearing. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Welton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to approve application for Toscano Forno LLC, doing business as Toscano Forno, 23 Upton Street, Peabody, Massachusetts, requesting an entertainment license for non-live entertainment, specifically television, radio, digital jukebox, and internet radio, and live entertainment, specifically live music provided by no more than a 5-piece band, DJ, karaoke, comedy stand-up at 139 Linfield Street, Peabody, Massachusetts, with the following conditions included. Function room conditions. Toscano Forno shall provide a police detail when when occupancy of 125 patrons on the function room side of the establishment are anticipated. Function room condition number 2. If function room was booked, public entertainment can move to the bar section of the restaurant. Live music on the restaurant side is limited to no more than 4 pieces, which includes the vocals. Upon the request from the city, management must be able to provide information that public entertainment was contracted prior to the function being booked, being contracted for a private function. Sound level controlled by Toscano Forno manager on duty, and only Toscano Forno management will be responsible for sound level of the band, and any violation of this requirement could lead to a show cause hearing. Bands providing live entertainment are restricted to 5 members. Private functions can also sell tickets to functions if for fundraising purposes only. Toscano Forno may charge entities for show bands, comedy shows, plays, dinner shows, etc. Soundproof doors located within the function room providing access to the front of the building to be used as emergency exit only and to remain closed. Toscano Forno manager on duty is responsible for all activities outside the restaurant at all times and monitor on a regular basis and control noise levels at all times. The Peabody Police Department will provide the City Council with a copy of all reports from police response calls to Toscano Forno. Restaurant section conditions. Public entertainment on Thursday and Sunday only. Sunday license required by Mayor's office. In the restaurant section, bands providing live entertainment are restricted to 4 members, including vocals. Entertainment in the restaurant section is subject to all applicable conditions as stated above. This entertainment license is not transferable. The City Council's 6-day entertainment license shall include live music from all genres, TV, DJ, comedy, children's entertainment, clowns, magic shows, etc., karaoke, charity and fundraising events, trivia dinner shows, and instructional classes, for example, paint nights, etc. Entertainment in the function room not associated with a private function is allowed on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights and the following holidays if they do not occur on a Sunday, acknowledging Easter always occurs on a Sunday. Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, Cinco de Mayo, Mother's Day, Father's Day, the night before Thanksgiving, and New Year's Eve. And finally, in response to a comment from Conservation Commissioner Lucia Del Negro, I would request that the property owner close out an open and expired order of conditions with the Conservation Commission. So moved.
We have a motion on the floor. You heard the motion from Councilor Welton. Councilor Rossignol.
Thank you. On the motion, could we just pull out the police detail as its own and deal with that condition and then take the other ones as a group?
You could make an amendment to the, you
Then
could
I'd
make a
make
motion to amend the.
I'd make a motion to amend the conditions on the permit to pull out the police detail for the 125 and all that.
So, you want to remove all of condition 1, correct?
Could,
All right.
Can I speak to that?
We close the meeting. Yeah, as the applicant, the clerk, yes, you can.
Okay. I just wanted to, we had a brief discussion, and one of the problems with that condition, which we're very thankful of Councilor Rosendahl's motion, I'm having a wedding. I cracked at 125. I now have a police detail at my wedding. My guy would not be asking the people having the wedding to pay for that, but they now are in a position, why is there a police detail at my wedding? So it creates kind of an awkward moment, and it's not because of the cost, but just because I'm having, a wake or some such thing, a celebration of life, and now I've got a police detail. So there is an awkwardness to it. We're not against the spirit of it, but we'd be very appreciative of entertaining Councilor Rosendahl's motion.
Okay, so we have an amendment to the motion by Councilor Welton to eliminate condition 1. Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think what's missing here is this. First of all, Jack, 15 minutes ago you said you were okay with this, and then 15 minutes later you said you're not. The police detail was never inside the building. The police detail was always in the parking lot. That was a condition set forth. The mayor had actually asked that the police detail stay outside the building, and they always did. When you went to the Stonewood, you never saw a police officer inside the building. It was always outside in the parking lot area. This lot is extremely difficult. There is a rich deal where there's in and outs all night long till 10 o'clock. There's Ramsey's right to the right door of where the Stonewood Tavern is, directly to the right, which is also a lot of in and outs, and they're open till 11 o'clock at night. And now you're going to add weddings and everything else. So I understand, Councilor Rossignol, that you're concerned about the Elks or wherever else you may be concerned about, but this is a residential neighborhood. This is a very busy parking lot. I know it very, very well. And this was asked from the residents 6 years ago. And I maintain that if the residents had known we weren't going to put this, you might have had some come and speak, or I actually would have reached out to them because they thought these conditions were maintaining, staying similar to what they are. That's all.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other councilors? Any other councilors? All right, so we have a motion on the floor to amend the conditions of condition 1 from Councilor Rossignol. Any other discussion? Seeing none, so we'll take a roll call vote, and it's an amendment to the motion by Councilor Welton.
Councilors Gould.
No.
Rossignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Welton.
No.
O'Neill. McGinn.
No.
Gamache.
No.
Turco.
No.
Daigle.
No.
Melville.
No.
Motion fails.
So the amendment fails. We're going to move on. So we have a motion on the floor. Any other discussion on the motion by Councilor Welton? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould. Rossignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
McGinn. Yes. Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Councilors.
Thank you. Moving on to item 4E. The clerk will read the public notice.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody, acting as the special permit granting authority, will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, July 14th, 2022, at 7:30 p.m. in the Frank L. Wigan Auditorium, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., and remotely via Zoom on the application from Kevin D. White and Tabitha A. White, care of White Auto, LLC, 258 Newbury Street, Unit D, Peabody, Mass., for a special permit requesting to store and sell no more than 5 motor vehicles on the premises at any one time, ancillary to the petitioner's auto repair business at 258 Newbury Street, Unit D, Peabody, Mass., as filed in accordance with Sections 4.2.5, 6.1, and 15.7 of the Peabody zoning ordinance. For remote participation using the Zoom platform, please visit www.peabody-ma.gov under calendar on the homepage or contact the city clerk's office. Peabody City Council, Councilor Ryan Melville, City Council President.
The petitioner, state your name and address for the record and what you'd like to do.
My name is Chad Colarusso. I'm an attorney. I represent White Auto LLC. My address, business address is 900 Cummings Center, Suite 207T in Beverly. And I am joined by Kevin White, who is one of the managers and one of the owners of White Auto LLC.
Thank you. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak in favor? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor? Anybody on Zoom wish to speak in favor? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in opposition? Anybody wish to speak in opposition? Seeing none, Councilor Gamache.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I'd like to explain that I put a piece of paper on your, from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the license that he referred to in his application that he was willing to adhere to JPC Auto Sales Limited, which is actually another business at that 258 Newbury Street. So I just want to give you that for the clarification. Move to receive a late communication. So move.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? The vote. Councilor Gamache.
Yes, and with that being said, I met with Mr. White a couple of days ago, and he's further down to the back of the facility. He works on vehicles. He takes them in. Sometimes they don't want them fixed. He purchases the vehicles. He'd like to have a use that he can get rid of them. So he's seeking this permit, and you know, quite honestly, it's basically a separate use that he could use to try to make some money during these tough times. So if there's no questions, I'd move to close the public hearing.
Any councilors have any questions? Seeing none, you heard the motion from Councilor Gamache to close the Councilor McGinn.
Sorry, Mr. President, did you already query the public on this?
I had to think about that, Councilor. Thank you. Yes, we did do the public question. Councilor Gamache, I know Councilor Gamache has a motion on the floor to close the public hearing. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Councilor Gamache.
At this time, I move approval on the application from Kevin D. White and Tabitha A. White, care of White Auto LLC, 258 Newbury Street, Unit D, Peabody, Mass., for a special permit requesting to store and sell no more than 5 motor vehicles on the premises at any one time, ancillary to the petitioner's auto repair business at said 252 Newbury Street, Unit D, Peabody, Mass. is filed in accordance with sections 4.2.5, 6.1, and 15.7 of the Peabody zoning ordinance, with the conditions being a maximum vehicles allowed for sale at any one time shall be 5. The other question I have to the petitioner, your hours of operation are Monday through Friday. Do you want to extend it to the old JPC in case you have to close a deal on Saturday or Sunday?
Yes, sir. That'd be great.
Okay, so I will also add as a condition, the hours of operation shall be 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Sunday.
Great.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You heard the motion from Councilor Gamache. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Rossignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Peach.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Moving on to item 8, 4F. The clerk will read the notice.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, July 14th, 2022, at 7:30 p.m. in the Frank L. Wigan Auditorium, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., and remotely via Zoom on the application from White Auto LLC, DBA Custom Auto Sales, 258 Newbury Street, Unit D, Peabody, Mass., requesting use of a Class II motor vehicle license at said 258 Newbury Street, Unit D, Peabody, Mass. For remote participation using the Zoom platform, please visit www.peabody-ma.gov under calendar on the homepage or contact the City Clerk's office. Peabody City Council, Councilor Ryan Melville, City Council President.
Petitioner, just name and address for the record, and the license you're applying for.
Yes. Good evening, everyone, again. My name, Chad Colarusso, lawyer for White Auto LLC, the petitioner. My business address is 900 Cummings Center, Suite 207T in Beverly.
Anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor? Anybody on Zoom wish to speak in favor? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in opposition? Anybody wish to speak in opposition? Seeing none, Councilor Gamache.
Yes, this is just a formality for the original permit we just granted, so if there's no questions, I move to close the public hearing.
Hear the motion from Councilor Gamache to close the public hearing. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed to the vote? Councilor Gamache.
This time, I move approval from White Auto LLC, doing business as Custom Auto Sales, 258 Newbury Street, Unit D, Peabody, Mass., requesting use of Class 2 motor vehicle license. It said 258 Newbury Street, Unit D, Peabody, Mass.
Hear the motion from Councilor Gamache. Any discussion on the motion? Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to Councilor Gamache. Do you want to sync that up with the 5 cars?
Limited 5 vehicles is on the special permit, so moved.
Okay, we've updated that motion. Any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Peach.
Yes.
Welton. McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache. Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Moving on to item 4G.
President,
Councilor Gamache.
under 4G, we have a request late 3 to continue this till the next meeting due to papers not being complete upon this meeting. I think he's waiting for
Site plan review.
site plan review.
We're in peer review with the planning board. We'll be finished with that by the time you meet next. So Rule 718, not being 17, not having been complied with, would ask that this matter be continued. And I...
Yep.
So
Clerk
did
has
you
that right.
approve the late communication?
Well, that's what I was about.
Okay.
Yep. So we're gonna, the motion is to approve the late communication. All in favor, any opposed to the vote, and then a motion to
At this time,
continue.
I would move to grant the continued hearing till the first meeting, the last meeting in August, on the 25th. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor Gamache. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed to vote? Moving on to item 4H. The clerk will read the public notice.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody, acting as the special permit granting authority, will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, July 14th, 2022, at 7:30 p.m. in the Frank L. Wigan Auditorium, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., and remotely via Zoom on the application from South Coast Moving, Storage, and Property Management, 455 to 447 Bolton Street, New Bedford, Mass., for a special permit requesting to use a portion of the premises as a warehouse at 119 Rare Foster Street, Building 4, Peabody, Mass., as filed in accordance with Sections 4.2.5, 6.1, and 15.7 of the Peabody zoning ordinance. For remote participation using the Zoom platform, please visit www.peabody-ma.gov under Calendar on the homepage or contact the City Clerk's office. Peabody City Council, Councilor Ryan Melville, City Council President.
Thank you. Would the petitioner just give us your name, address, and a summary of what they're looking to do?
Good evening. For the record, my name is Ethan Vonzalides. I'm an attorney practicing law at 246 Andover Street in Peabody, and I am here on behalf of the petitioner with respect to this evening's application. With me this evening is Mr. Steve Economos. He's the manager and owner of South Coast Moving. The petitioner specializes in providing moving services to both residential and commercial landlords, and part of that service is the storage of their customers' furnishings and their other belongings. The petitioner's main place of business is in the city of New Bedford and in Fall River, where he has approximately 250,000 square feet of warehouse space. Mr. Economos also has 3 satellite locations. One is in the city of Brockton, the other is in the city of Worcester, and the third is in the town of North Chelmsford. To better serve his customers, he desires to create a 4th satellite location somewhere in Essex County, more specifically here in the city of Peabody. He does have a lease agreement to occupy a portion of the building at 119 Rear Foster Street. It's obviously subject to obtaining this evening's permit. He's going to be leasing only 1,000 square feet of this building, and that space is located on the ground floor. And he's obviously going to utilize that space as a warehouse for the temporary storage of furniture and other belongings. As a satellite location, there will be no employees on site. There will be no trucks that are stored at the premises. It's strictly a drop-off and a pickup location, meaning that the petitioner will bring a customer's belongings from his main location here to the temporary storage, and the customer picks them up at their convenience. As such, there's very little traffic to and from this location. We estimate that only probably one vehicle trip per week, which may be a drop-off or a pickup. Lastly, I'd like to make one correction in my application. One of the questions is, was any state permits required by the applicant? My client does not require any state permit, but he does require a state warehouseman's license, which he's not allowed to apply for until he obtains any required local approvals. As I stated earlier, I do have Mr. Economos here with me this evening, and we'll try to address any questions the council or the public may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor? Anybody on Zoom wish to speak in favor? If you could just raise your hand. Anybody in the audience wish to speak in opposition? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in opposition? Anybody on Zoom wish to speak in opposition? Yeah, there's a hand. I don't know. Anybody on Zoom wish to speak in opposition? It looks like a hand came up and then came down. I just want to give you an opportunity. Okay. If you could just state your name and address for the record. You're at Fran. If you could just give us your name and address for the record and why you're in opposition. You could unmute yourself. Can you hear us, Fran, or is it, there's a chat box if you want to just let us know if you can hear us or if there's an issue. You could just unmute yourself. I'd ask IT, can we just make sure that these folks are able to just take one moment. Fran, we're unable to hear you. Do you have a microphone or on your computer or some way to communicate? There's a chat box. Fran, do you want to give us a call? We can. There's a phone number on the hearing notice, and that if you want to give us a call, we can patch you in that way. Unfortunately, we're not able to hear you, Fran. I'm going to get a 2-minute recess just to give this person an opportunity. Councilman again.
Sorry, Mr. President, I got ahead of myself. We can do the recess so we can keep moving, and before we close the hearing, try to loop him back.
We can go that route, Councilman again. I'm going to ask IT to take a look at this right now. Yeah, Councilman. We have one more person that would like to speak, so we'll go. Russ, if you'd like to let us know if you're in opposition, why you're in opposition. And your name and address for the record. Yeah, we can hear you, Russ.
I'm just doing a systems check for you while I was watching.
Russ, can you say that again? I'm sorry, you came in broken up.
I was just doing a systems check for you.
Thank you, Russ. Yes, your systems are working. We can definitely hear you.
Okay.
Appreciate that, Russ. We're not going to close the public hearing without giving Fran an opportunity, but I'm going to bring it over to Councilor McGinn, and then we'll, before we close, we'll double check to see if we can get comments from Fran. No, we're going to go to Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've been in contact with the applicant's attorney. Attorney Vonzalides has confirmed that South Coast Moving, Storage, and Property Management is involved in the eviction business in addition to kind of how it was described on the application. So looking at that piece of it, you know, that raised a few questions for me because the eviction business can be, for lack of a better term, a little bit of a messy business, given the circumstances that precipitate those actions at some time. So basically, I just want to know that the operation is going to be run strictly as it's been described in the application and at this hearing by the applicant's attorney, so that we don't end up with something different, something that's disruptive to other businesses in the area or to area residents. So to that end, Mr. President, I'm going to put forward a few conditions which primarily reinforce the information that's on the application. I've reviewed all these conditions with the applicant's attorney, and they're agreeable to those conditions. So at this time, I'd defer to other councilors, or if you want to, if you've been able to resolve the technical issue, Mr. President.
Just for the record, I talked to IT. It seems like everything's working on our end. So we'll give the member of the public an opportunity, but we'll continue debate. Any other councilor you wanted to cede the floor to? Any other councilors? Any other councilors? Councilor Manny Martin.
I'm interested in hearing the conditions, but I also had a question through you to Councilor McGinn. The lighting, was there any change of the current lighting that is there now, just out of interest of the residents in the next building?
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to Councilor Manning Martin. No, there is no change to the lighting scheme. And there was nothing, I should say, I did not discuss that specifically with the applicant, but there was nothing in the application that would lead me to believe that, so I'm going to let the applicant speak to that as well.
That's correct. There'll be no change to the lighting.
Any other councilors? Councilor Manny Martin. Any other Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. President, just through you to Mr. Vonzalides, I know with the eviction business, after storing tenants' property for 6 months, the owner of the warehouse has the right to auction that material off. Does your client have any intentions on holding auctions within this Peabody parcel, or will those be held? Actually, he might be obligated to hold those in Peabody somewhere within the vicinity of the warehouse, but I wouldn't like to see that, so I guess I'll just ask that question. Any auctions intended on being held for property at that location?
There won't be any auctions. Just to give the council maybe a more wider view of my client, he's not in the eviction business. He doesn't evict anybody, but he is the largest eviction warehouseman in the Commonwealth of Mass. And his customers aren't homeowners. His customers are large residential apartment complexes similar to Avalon Properties, large commercial landlords like you have at the Cummings Center in Beverly. A lot of his customers are actual municipal housing authorities. Other customers are banks and other lending institutions that have foreclosed on business assets. And basically all the local sheriffs and the constables. And what happens when somebody does get evicted, whether it's commercial or residential, if they vacate the premises and they leave all their personal property there, then the landlord or the constable or sheriff hires my client to come in, store the property at his warehouse. I believe he's obligated to store it for up to a period of 7 months. He will not hold any auctions at this property. I believe if they don't pick him up after 7 months, he disposes of the property.
Thank you. Councilor Turco?
Thank you. That would lead to my next question. So if there is no auction and the property is disposed of, it's going to be disposed of off-site or?
Off-site.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other councilors? Before we close the public hearing, we had somebody call in, and they just hung up. I want to give Fran, can you unmute yourself? I want to make sure I give you an opportunity to speak. Fran, we can't hear you. If you could either try to call in or unmute yourself. Sorry, just one moment. We're going to just make sure we make every effort. So councilors, IT just confirmed to me again that it's working fine on our end, that they're not getting anything coming in, so it's not as if it's a disconnect. We've kind of made every effort here. I think we should be able to move on.
Move to close the public hearing, Mr. President.
You heard the motion from Councilor McGinn to close the public hearing. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to approve the application from South Coast Moving Storage and Property Management, 445-447 Bolton Street, New Bedford, Mass. For a special permit requesting to use a portion of the premises as a warehouse at 119 Rear Foster Street, Building 4, Peabody, Mass. As filed in accordance with Section 4.2.5, 6.1, and 15.7 of the Peabody zoning ordinance with the following conditions. In accordance with the application, business hours of operation shall be Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. by appointment only with no weekend hours. 2, warehouse space shall not exceed the approximate 1,000 square feet noted on the application. 3, as per the application, there shall be no on-site staff, no vehicles parked overnight, and no trucks stored on the premises. 4, to the extent the site is involved in the eviction business, the site will be licensed by the Office of Public Safety and Inspections. 5, in accordance with the application, all storage shall be indoors with no outdoor storage permitted. 6, the applicant will engage with the property owner to ensure the adequacy of dumpster space. And 7, the applicant shall submit an integrated pest management plan to the Health Department. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor McGinn. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Peach.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Well, thank you very much. Hope you have a great summer break.
All right. Thank you. Moving on to reports of committee. Item 5. We've already handled the industrial and community development. We'll move on to the finance committee. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Finance Committee of the Peabody City Council met earlier this evening. Present for the committee were Councilors Gamache, Gould, Manning, Martin, and Turco, and myself as chair. Also present were Councilors Welton, Peach, Daigle, Melville, and Rozignol. There were 2 items on the agenda. First item on the agenda was transfer of funds, CPC Emerson Cemetery Restoration, amount of $14,245. That was presented by Director of Finance, Mr. Gingras. There were no questions on that from the committee or other councilors. There was a motion made as follows by Councilor Gould. Move to approve transfer from account number 270-0000-33021, CPC Historic Preservation, amount of $14,245, to account number 270-1811, 58563-2022-000505, CPC Emerson Cemetery Restoration, an amount of $14,245. Mr. President, that motion passed in committee unanimously. I now bring it to consideration of the full council. So moved.
Heard the motion from Councilor McGinn. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Welton. McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Second item on the agenda was transfer fund, cable fund expense, an amount of $120,000. That was presented to us by Director of Finance, Mr. Gingras. This is a routine matter. There were no questions from the committee or other councilors. The following motion was made by Councilor Gould, move to approve transfer receipts reserve cable fund account number 2700000333017, an amount of $120,000 to cable fund expense account number 2700000530007, an amount of $120,000. Mr. President, that motion passed in committee unanimously. I now bring it for consideration of the full council. So moved.
Heard the motion from Councilor McGinn. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Manning
Yes.
Martin. Peach.
Yes.
Welton. McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. That completes the report.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. Just on the committee of the whole on the charter, we're still, once we get the updated, the motions that were made that evening, we'll report them out at the next meeting. So that will be part of the report of committee at that time. Moving on to motions, orders, and resolutions. Councilor Gould.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Councilor Rozignol.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, motion to receive item 8A. So moved.
Heard the motion from Councilor Rozignol. Any discussion? Councilor Turco.
Thank you. I'm not even sure on that, on 8A, if it was you, Council Rozignol, or me that made that motion. I know we both discussed it, so I'll defer to...
Councilor McGinn's got his hand up.
I'll defer to Council Rozignol if you don't mind.
Councilor Rozignol.
So I have the floor. I was going to make a second motion after just receiving that.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion. Councilor McGinn.
Right. Just for clarification, Mr. President, through you to Councilor Turco, I actually made this motion in committee. It was Councilor Rozignol made a more detailed motion, and so we got a portion of the information from those two motions.
Okay, very good. So we have a motion on the floor to receive this. All in favor? Any opposed? To vote, Councilor Rozignol.
Thank you, Mr. President. Make a motion to request Dr. Josh Vidal, the superintendent of schools, to give us a little bit more detailed proposed budget for 2023 regarding ESSA funds, specifically staff dollar amounts, staffing positions, and non-salary positions. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor Rozignol. Any discussion? Councilor Turco.
As a reminder to Council Rozignol, through you, Mr. President, I'm sorry. I think you asked for Title I also. Did you still want Title I or just
Correct.
ESSA?
Yes. Sorry, add that to the motion, please.
All right, you heard the motion from Councilor Rozignol. All in favor? Any opposed? To vote, Councilor Rozignol.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the under suspension of the rules, motion to receive item 8I. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor Rozignol. All in favor? Any opposed? To vote, Councilor Rozignol.
No further motions. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
President.
Councilor Rozignol. Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under suspension of the rules, motion to receive item 8F, please. Thank you. So moved.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? To vote, Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I would like to request of the mayor when exactly the City Hall doors are going to be accessible to the public. I've gotten a few calls from residents, in particular seniors, that are coming to City Hall, and they're trying 2 or 3 doors before they're getting around to the one door. that is open. Oftentimes going up to the front door, you know, climbing all those steps to have to keep going down until they find a door. Now, I understand that if you have been coming, if you work in this building and you come here regularly, you know what door to go to. But if you're a member of the public who wants access to City Hall for whatever reason, you have a right to come down here and access the building. The doors are not open, and you know, the access was restricted due to COVID, and COVID, you know, has passed, and at this point, it's an unnecessary inconvenience as far as I'm concerned. So I'd like to know what the plan is for, and when the doors are going to be accessible to the public for their building, to access their building. Thank you. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor Manning Martin. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? The vote, Councilor Manning Martin.
No further motions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8G and set up a public hearing.
Heard the motion from Councilor Peach.
No further motions tonight. I do just want to thank the volunteers I had on the 4th of July. I know it was last week, but we had a great event in Ward 3. We saw about 250 people from our neighborhood, 90% of which walked to the Carroll School Park. So it was a great time putting that on for the first time, and I hope that if anyone listening out there wants to help for next year, just reach out, because there's plenty to do, and I'd love to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Peach. Councilor Welton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive and approve all papers being in order. 9A, block party requests for 5 through 8 Glen Drive on July 23rd, a portion of Brentwood and Ravenwood on July 23rd, Orchard Street at Lowell Street on July 30th, Buttonwood Lane between Barrett and Fitz on September 10th. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor Welton. All in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Welton, would you also take those late communication?
Late communication too?
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also, under suspension of the rules, move to receive and approve all papers being in order. Late communication 2 regarding a block party from 11 Margin Terrace to 6 Adams Ave on Saturday, the 27th of August. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor Welton. All in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Welton.
Thank you, Mr. President. I did want to just take a moment to address the residents of Bartholomew Terrace. I was prepared to make a motion this evening on their behalf. They had filed a petition and sent one to myself and the mayor's office regarding the condition of Tilly's Farm, particularly the field and the growth in the field. And the petition was based out of concern that if there were a potential fire, that it could be devastating for that whole area. I did speak to Billy Murphy and the staff at Tilly's Farm, and they were very attentive. Also had communicated to me that they've been working on getting a landscaper in to cut the field, and I want to let all those residents know that that will be done in the next week. So just a point of information for the good people on Bartholomew Terrace. And then lastly, to follow the sentiments of Councilor Peach, I'd like to thank everyone who was involved with the 4th of July celebration in Ward 1. We had a great turnout. It was an awesome day. And I want to thank all the volunteers. I'm not going to list them because I'm going to forget somebody and make someone upset, but I do want to send a special shout out to the Department of Public Services for their tremendous help with getting everything set up and removed. And then lastly, another thank you to Department of Public Services. We had a resident in Ward 1 who unfortunately had recently lost a child who had a physical disability and had wanted the handicap parking sign in front of her home removed. And I reached out to the department and it was removed within 24 hours. So I really appreciate their attention to that during that family's difficult time. So no further motions this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Welton. The clerk is just asking about having making a motion to have that handicap spot rescinded in the ordinance. Yeah.
So moved. I believe off the top of my head, I think it was 19 Rose Circle. I can follow up with the clerk thereafter, but thank you, and thank you for the recommendation. I'll certainly follow up, Allison.
You heard the motion from Councilor Welton. All in favor? Any opposed to the vote? Thank you, Councilor Welton. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. guess before I start motions, I'll start off with the, as my fellow ward councilors have, with an appreciation for those that volunteered for our 4th of July event, as well as those that attended. We also had a great event, great participation, wonderful weather day, and it was just great. So every year I look forward to this, and with a little bit of trepidation, but it went particularly well this year. So with that, Mr. President, on suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8B and refer to the committee of the whole. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor McGinn. All in favor? Any opposed? As a vote, Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. On suspension of the rules, move to receive and approve item 8D. So moved, Mr. President. And on the motion, just remind councilors that this is the warrant for the primary. It needs to be signed. So moved, Mr. President.
You heard the motion from Councilor McGinn. All in favor? Any opposed? The vote. The clerk is passing it around as we speak. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. On suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8L, Mr. President, and that is a number of responses from the Health Department that would have been associated with items 4E, 4H, 4G, 4C, 4D, and 4B that we addressed this evening, Mr. President. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor McGinn. All in favor? Any opposed? The vote. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive item 10A and adopt as advertised. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor McGinn. We're going to do a roll call on this. Again, it's item 10A. Any discussion on it? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Rossignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Welton. McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. On suspension of the rules, move to receive item 10B and adopt as advertised. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor McGinn. Any discussion on the motion? Councilor Manning Martin.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. There is a list of things on here, positions on here that weren't funded in 2021, that are funded in 2022, and there are several of them. And I only point that out because we had been told, well, we read in the paper, and that there was only one new position put in the budget, and that was the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Director. However, there are several other ones here. The Children's Museum Executive Director, that is new. The Assistant Director of the Children's Museum, that is new. And also indicated in here that was not in last year's budget, but is being put in this year's budget, is the Assistant Information Technology Manager. And so I just wanted to point that out, that there are new positions. There were more than one position put in this year's budget, and it's clearly in this schedule of compensation that is being adopted, or is put forward tonight to be adopted. So I just wanted to point that out for clarification and informational. And also, I had a question. Does anyone know what the Assistant Director of Small Cities is? It was $80,000 last year, $80,508 last year, and this year it's $90,897. I have no idea what the Assistant Director of Small Cities is. I've asked several councilors. No one has any idea. Anyone? Anyone?
Councilor Daigle?
I believe that's Kevin Hurley, who works with Lisa Green in community development and planning. It's usually a grant CDBG funded position, separate from the home program, I believe.
So there's a Director of Small Cities too, somewhere? Because this is the Assistant Director of Small Cities, and it's in a rate of compensation for full-time employees not subject to collective bargaining. So I don't think it's in a grant or Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other counselors? Item 10B. Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould,
Yes.
Rozignol,
No.
Manning Martin,
No.
Peach,
Yes.
Welton, McGinn,
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco,
No.
Daigle,
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Counselor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive late communication 4, so moved.
You heard the motion from Counselor McGinn. All in favor? Any opposed? The vote. Counselor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this is a communication from the Clerk Danforth and forwarding some information about the need for police detail, and it's a request to make the following motion. Move to request that the police chief, Thomas Griffin, assign a minimum of 1 police officer to each polling precinct for the state primary to be held Tuesday, September 6, 2022, the state election to be held Tuesday, November 8, 2022, and early voting dates in 2022, if possible. So moved.
You heard the motion from Counselor McGinn. Should do a roll call. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Any opposed? The vote. Counselor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. No further motions.
Thank you, Counselor McGinn. Counselor Gamache.
Yes, at this time I move late communication, move to receive and place it on a special permit hearing. So moved.
That would be late one.
Yes.
All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Counselor Gamache.
At this time, I move to receive item 8C and set up a zoning amendment request and notify planning board.
And refer it to the
Also
industrial.
refer to I&CDE. So moved.
You heard the motion from Counselor Gamache. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Counselor
At
Gamache.
this time, I move to receive item 8E and send this on to the Rent Control Board for a hearing. So moved.
You heard the motion from Counselor Gamache. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Counselor Gamache.
Yes, move to receive 9B, utility contractor's license, Aganis Construction Incorporated, 200 Broadway, Suite 105, Linfield. Move approval, all papers being in order.
You heard the motion from Counselor Gamache. All in favor? Any opposed? The vote. Counselor
Taxi
Gamache.
cab license, 9C. Move to approve John O'Malley, license 7, Rex Kent, license 8, all papers being in order.
You heard the motion from Counselor Gamache. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Counselor Gamache.
And the last one, banner request, North Shore Community Health, 27 Congress Street. Move approval, all papers being in order.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? The vote. Counselor Gamache.
For the motions.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move to set up a hearing of the Ad hoc Committee on Drug Education and Awareness and invite Sandy Drover and Sarah Grinnell, as well as Sharon Cameron, to discuss, the discussion being that the opioid epidemic, we just received some funding as part of being with the opioid litigation, and I wanted to see what the intentions were. Also with the overdose numbers in the city, so with the intention of discussing the drug epidemic as a whole. So moved.
You heard the motion from Counselor Turco. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? The vote. Counselor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. From the budget talk, we had talked about setting up a public services hearing and asking the facilities director to come. He was going to provide us with a flow chart for the facilities department, and basically, and that was at the request of the mayor also. So if we could invite the mayor so that he could better explain to us who was in charge of schools and dictating what the facilities department's jobs would be at this point.
Counsel, is that for a subcommittee or is that for the?
For a subcommittee, for a public services subcommittee,
sorry,
yes. So the facilities director and the mayor would only be the only two that needed to be invited to that.
You heard the motion from Counselor Turco. All in favor? Any opposed? The vote. Counselor Turco.
No further motions.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Daigle.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think we have handled everything on the agenda, unless you guys need me to cover anything. Thank you, Ms. Clerk. And I just want to echo the other ward councilors and thank everyone for a successful 4th of July. The weather could not have been better. We had a great time in Ward 4 and started off by presenting 2 checks to a center school student with cancer. The Cops for Kids with Cancer gave her $8,500, and then we had over 350 people show up. We had a lot of thank you to our sponsors. We had 40 volunteers. It was a great day, and we'll continue to make it better. So we're already planning for next year. Thank you for everyone that helped. That's it.
Thank you, Counselor. I just have one item, 2 items. One is I'd entertain a motion to forward the updates to the Veterans Tax Abatement Program to the Human Services Committee.
So moved.
Thank you. There's been an update in state law for that. All in favor? Any opposed? To vote. Counselor Welton, you had your hand raised.
On that, Mr. President, through you to Ms. Danforth, could we schedule a meeting for Health and Human Services as well?
Very good, thank you. And the last thing was, I had mentioned this in the charter review, but if there's any, legal questions that might come up, and we're going to probably have one at the end in September regarding Articles 4 and 5. If you want to send them to the clerk can get them to the attorney. And that being said, entertain a motion to adjourn. You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? To vote? We're adjourned.